wonderful, beautiful people of Montreal and the world. This is Not a Journalist with Brian Holiday. And I have a wonderful guest who's been on so many cool things. I think one of my favorite things is Future Man, which I watched the first season almost religiously, and then I saw that you were on. And then I didn't have access because I was using a VPN to get access to Hulu through a thing, and then lost access and haven't caught up on it. But I saw you're on it, ladies and gentlemen. Teneisha Collins, the Montreal actress, the Montreal inspiration, the local girl that we went to the same elementary school. What's up?
Bedford, what's up?
Bedford represent, doing things, doing big things.
Thank you so much for having me here.
This is so awesome.
For me, it's so exciting because I remember you from Bedford and from Kent Park pool days and stuff like that.
Yes. Oh
So
my God.
and I feel like we've probably been doing the same thing, but I've been low key stalking your journey in the background. So I've seen the CJLO stuff. So to me, it's always cool to see I'm still Teneisha from the block, and it's cool to see Brian from the block doing his thing.
That's so dope. Yeah.
And best of Montreal candidate. That's amazing, you know?
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I mean, similar watching you. And then I remember the first time I saw you on Blue Mountain State, and I was just like, say word. I was just like, okay.
So Blue Mountain State is funny because that was actually I'd been acting since I was 8. I started at Bedford. That's where I got my start. Suzanne Comblé, our grade 2 teacher, started doing plays, and I got the bug. And then I gave my parents the yellow pages and was find me an agent. But Blue Mountain State was my first gig under ACTRA, so it's under the Canadian Actors Union. And I ended up not having any lines. I was supposed to have lines. I had no lines. If you've seen the episode, it's comedic. I have a threesome with not a goat, but a person dressed as a goat.
Like
so
a mascot.
It's just comedy, but I have no lines. And I've done a lot of cool things, but I still know when Blue Mountain State is airing somewhere new because I get a bump in followers, or I get these creepy messages from Blue Mountain State 11 years ago, and it's still 12 years ago now, and it's still my most famous role.
Well, I mean, it's just, for me, one of the things I ended up going to Abbott, of all the places, living in Montreal.
Boy, go to Abbott.
Yeah, exactly. Not because I wanted to, but I ended up at Abbott, and one of my buddy Nitz, shout outs to Nitz, was one of the stand-ins because he's a football player at Abbott, and he was a stand-in on the show. So he was always talking about being on set and stuff like that. And then I saw you, and I was just it's just kind of cool to know that John Abbott College and the campus and the show did so many interesting things and represented Montreal. Well, it's not Montreal, but it's just if you know Montreal, seeing all these Montrealers there doing their thing, it was just awesome, and it was just great, and it was so fun to see it. And I'm happy that people recognize you from it. It's cool that you get the bump. I apologize for the creeps.
I mean, look, it's something that I even the casting director, who knew me since I was 13, called me and was like, okay, I had auditioned for I think 12 characters that season. I have a role for you. You're special. They really want you for this. And he kind of gave me this big disclaimer, and he's like, read it. Let me know what you think, because he knows me. And it's not I'm a free person, but I don't I'm also kind of private. And I read it, and I was just he's like, it's comedy more than anything. And I read it, and I was like, this is effing hilarious. And I asked my mom what she thought, because that's the barometer. And she was just like, are you comfortable? I'm like, yeah. She was like, well, then do it. So I was happy I did it. I had a blast. I worked with Chris Romansky, who I'm rewatching How I Met Your Mother, and he was one of the executive producers on the show. So to me, I'm that's a cool little link to my favorite show from my first.
I should have known he was the executive. I remember that he was the close friend who comes to visit at one point.
Yeah.
Benji, is that yes?
Punchy. Yeah, Punchy.
Yeah, Punchy. Yes. And he's great as that character.
Hilarious. It was so funny because look, when you're any kind of nude scene that you're doing, they have what they call a closed set, which basically means that only essential people are allowed on the set.
Yeah.
So it was me, the girl Mel St. Pierre. Shout out Mel, goat crew all the way. And Romansky, and then we had a wardrobe person who between takes would come and bring us a robe. But we're not right. And after doing 30 takes from one angle, we're just forget it. And he's American, but in the scene, in the iconic scene, because there's a few scenes, but in the iconic scene, I'm making out. But first of all, okay, let's backtrack. So we knew that it was a threesome. We didn't really know the choreography. We knew like everything leading up. And please stop me if it's too graphic.
No, no, no. I mean, unfortunately, I feel like the creeps are going to want to watch this and
Oh
hear the
my
story.
god! Oh my
But
god!
to everyone else who's watching, I mean, this is entertainment. This is the acting, and this is what happens. So,
And this is like my first nude scene, my first on-screen kiss. So they're like, so we walk into the room and there's stand-ins, and we see there's one guy and two girls, and there's a girl bent over like a chair, like what I'm like a big armchair.
yeah.
And then a guy standing behind her,
Oh boy.
and a girl standing beside him. And we walk in, and I'm just thinking, please stand, please be the one standing, please be the one standing, please be the one standing. And the girl Mel, she was a redhead at the time, and I was like, for sure it's gonna be the redhead, and it was her. So she's like getting fake rammed by this guy in full mascot costume, who, by the way, is not even using his own body parts.
Yeah.
He's using, like, even on the show, he's using like plastic,
Yeah.
because we're furries. And I'm there making out with the mascot head, but a mascot head, in the mouth, it's basically just like an open
Yeah.
mouth
Yeah.
with like a piece of like mesh in
Mesh.
front of the mask, like the person's face. So every like third take, I'd put my face in to like start fake making out, and literally that's what I did. And Romansky would just throw in like a stupid French word, like "sacoche." He would a really bad words. He'd be like "sacoche" in the sexiest way. That like we were just crying all day, and 20 something, early 20-year-old Teneisha, who was just like excited to be on her first set, but also just like I'm in my lingerie, so kind of nervous, just like very quickly got over that. And it got to the point where it was just like, we don't even need our robes between takes because you've seen it already.
Yeah.
And, we spent like, me and Mel, we spent like, a couple of weeks getting ready for the role and working out and getting in shape. Meanwhile, between takes, because we're shooting, we're eating poutine and gummy candies. So like the best it wasn't my first TV experience, but it was my first like major production experience.
Yeah.
It was the best, and it still haunts me. Like that scene is on Pornhub.
Oh my God.
Like that scene is on Pornhub with like -10% ratings because there's no nudity. People hate it, but it's on Pornhub, so it's like it's special.
I mean, so let's unpack that for a quick second. Being on Pornhub for a scene on a TV show, how did you even find out? Like who?
Okay, this is embarrassing, but I Googled myself. And that's what actors do every now and then. I Google myself to find like press, to find just different things. And then I see two listings. Teneisha Collins, Mr. Skin.
Oh boy, yes.
I didn't know what it was until then, but then all the guys were like, well, that's a compliment.
Yes.
Even though I was considered average breast, I was just like, that's offensive. And Teneisha Collins, Pornhub. And and I was just like I respect people who do porn, but that's not my choice.
Yeah.
And like my heart dropped into my butt because I was like, I don't do porn, but I was in my like, in your mind, it's like when you're in a store and you see a security guard and you're like, I'm not shoplifting, but like maybe I'm actually shoplifting.
Yeah.
So like, I don't do porn, but I'm like, who did I piss
Did
off?
Yeah. Who did
I piss
someone
off?
film me?
Locker room, like did they put like I used to be
no.
like a locker room where they were filming was changing. Like I had a quick panic.
Oh no.
It was kind of like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just click it. You need to know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's another team. Maybe it's like an impersonator.
Yeah.
And then it was the scene.
Oh
my
God.
Ridiculous thing ever. But like,
I mean, silver lining to that moment of sheer panic, though, because it sounds like I would definitely be petrified if I saw my name next to like Brian Holidae Pornhub, and I'd be like, okay, first things first. No, please no. I'm not sure I feel comfortable with the idea of being naked anywhere, let alone people watching me being naked, let alone people watching me possibly do something. Like just the fact that you have to run through so many things. But
it was like my mind was going like a million miles a minute. But like on the plus, like Mr. Skin wrote a really nice bio about me. So I read it and it was to the point where I was like, do they know me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really accurately described me, like my personality and like, my bubbliness and like my background and like all these different things. And I was just like, who do I know who's actually like on the down low working for this site writing a bio about me?
That
So, I mean,
honestly, some of these sites. Well, funny thing, Montreal, very much a porn hub. Like
head
Pornhub is.
office is here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So for anyone who doesn't know, Montreal is a kind of a porn capital of the world. A lot of companies come out of here, and a lot of the scripts. Because some of my buddies work for the companies and write scripts
Yeah.
that are sent to be filmed in the states
Yeah.
in whatever.
And
X,
the quality assurance is here too.
yeah, oh, yeah,
Watch the videos and like do the captioning,
yes.
when everything's right. Like,
Do
but
you have any friends there?
no, but like
Okay.
in another life, I worked in recruiting and I had a
Oh,
meeting at, they're called Mind Geek. They don't call
yes.
themselves Pornhub. And they also own Playboy TV. I didn't know that until
Oh,
I
I didn't know either.
like they have like they're building, and we've all seen it from the outside, even though you didn't realize it. It's like a nice little like a light bulb on the
Yeah.
outside, and inside it's beautiful. It's very dark, but it's very
Mm.
beautiful, very sleek, and you wouldn't think that you were in a porn building. Like it was
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
the only time that you knew that you were in a porn building is walking through the QA because it's like their call center agents almost. So
Oh, and you
walking
hear.
through, everybody has their headphones on, but you just see like porn, like hundreds of screens of porn. It's like this really weird sexual fever dream where it's just like TVs of porn all throughout. It's like Black
Can you tell
Mirror.
me your password again? No, sir. The threesome is supposed to look like that on this video. It's like, what the hell? And you're just walking down this hall like, what?
Well, it's like walking into a room full of computers with porn. It's like Mind Geek Triple X version. I know
Yeah.
it's like Black Mirror Triple X version. Like just like porn, 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 porn.
Fascinating.
But no, they were really nice, and like only one person was like a complete creep. Just like gave
Mm.
off and was very respectful, just gave off that like raunchy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, Montreal is a special place. We have a lot of secrets that
I know. And it's crazy too, because when I think my favorite for me is one of my friends from high school was this like he's a South Asian kid, super huge geek. Like was gonna be a computer engineer and all this stuff. And then when we like bumped into each other years later, he's telling me that he works for a company called Mind Geek as an accountant. And I was just like, oh, okay. And I didn't know what Mind Geek was at the time. And like I'm this.
cool.
Yeah, I was just like, "Oh, dude, you're an accountant at MindGeek. Congratulations! Your parents must be so surprised." Like, "Oh no, my parents don't know." And I was just like, and I just remember like South Asian kids have a history of like they're a lot of pressure from their parents. Like not to stereotype, but that's just part of the story of that community. Yeah. So I was just like, wait, why would you not tell your parents you gotta like? Because we had just finished. I think I took time off before I started university, so he was in university and had gotten the job while in university, and then was like working and like was working his way up while still in school. So I was just like in my head, I was like, that's the dream. You
Yeah.
sound like you're already locked in. Your parents would be so proud. You're still doing great in school. You already got the job. You're fast tracking. And he's just like, you don't know what Mind Geek is, do you? And I was like, no, not at all. And that's when he told me, and I was just like, good God, what? And then I found out other friends were working there. One of my friends was like you were saying, he watched the elderly porn and was what was the term you used? The quality.
Quality assurance,
Yeah,
QA.
yeah. And then he stopped. He told me very, very like one time him and I were hanging out, we were having drinks, and he sat me down. I was just like, "How's it going, man?" He's just like, "Not good." Watching those videos didn't affect me emotionally, but I feel like it changed my brain chemistry because now when I can't think of sex naturally, I just think of it with. And I was just like, that sounds like a very difficult job to do. And I find
Yeah.
it very interesting to like, what do you do in that situation?
It's like on Friends when like Joey and Chandler have like 24/7 porn and they don't want to turn the TV off, but then they're like they expect the delivery person to like be
Yeah.
naked,
Yes,
like
yes,
that's
yes.
sorry, I have like everything in life has a TV or movie reference for me. So like my
Same.
but yeah, it's like Friends, and I feel like I do feel like it probably desensitizes you in a bit, or just
Oh my
like
God.
I don't know. For me, I think it would make me very, very sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because like being free and like we've been blessed to grow up in Montreal, which has always been a city of just beautiful people, and then
Mhm.
to be working at a place like that and then to see the beautiful people and to be like I just can't because I watch all these videos so that people in other countries can get off. And it's like, please, no one look at me, no one talk to me. I was like, and when he was talking, he's like drinking his drink and he's talking casually, but under the undertone of the conversation was such a like deep, sad part. And I was just like, I want to like put my hand on his shoulder and be like, it's okay, buddy. We'll get through this together. We'll get you back to normal porn. Baseline. You just got to go watch some regular stars. You'll be okay.
What
Um,
do you mean?
but anyways, back to you acting. I don't know why.
I don't know how we got into the. Well, that's my fault. But yeah.
No, well, no. I mean, it's hilarious. That's a fun tangent to go on, especially being from Montreal. So acting, you do Blue Mountain State. You go on to be like the thing I saw that we were talking about right before we started. You mentioned that you've done an entire series recently through Zoom.
Yeah.
At the time that we're recording this, it's March 27th. The pandemic has been in full effect for literally a year, and I feel like the industry had to figure out ways to adapt and do some really cool things. And I saw Dungeons and Distancing.
You watched
And
it? Yeah.
I saw a little bit. I didn't get to watch all of it. I'm gonna watch all of it because I'm a huge like I don't know much about Dungeons and Dragons. I want to know more. If anyone's watching this and knows Dimension 20 from Dropout TV, you guys know that I'm into watching that show, and that show is literally just people playing Dungeons and Dragons, like filming it for a College Humor crew. And I find that super interesting. So I like watching shows like this because I am looking for a dungeon master because I want to play. And like watching you guys do a show, and like I think also lifting the veil of the old fashioned mentality of what Dungeons and Dragons used to be is one of the cool things about what shows like yours and what Dimension 20 does. So first off, what was it like filming something during the pandemic through Zoom? And then secondly, what are your feelings on a show like this and like doing Dungeons and Dragons? What was it like for you?
So, first of all, I have to say that the entertainment industry in Quebec adapted very quickly to the pandemic.
Okay.
So, this was I did a lot of voice work from home, either over Zoom or patched in like radio ads. And this was one of the things that I got to do. And it was really cool because I know the writers already. But I'm not good. I wasn't good friends with them. I've known them for a long time though.
Okay.
And they just asked me, they're like, we have this script. They got a couple of actors together. Like, can you do a reading with us? I'm like, sure, no problem. Over Zoom, I was like, yes, an opportunity to actually like act where I'm not, warning people about COVID protocols.
Yeah.
Was really nice. I'm not expecting to actually be offered this role because to me, when I think of Dungeons and Dragons, I think of like Big Bang Theory characters. I think of like a stereotypical like uber nerd,
Yes.
and like, I am that on the inside, but on the surface, like I mask it. So I read it, and like my character is the dungeon master, Casey, and I'm just like, it's such a fun character. She's queer, she's awkward, she's quirky, and she's kind of like this cool. Like she's like the straight, like in comedy, there's always the straight man in comedy.
Yes.
She's that like even person, but who has these like intense moments of comedy because I get to do a million characters as the dungeon master. So when I got the offer, I was like ecstatic and blown away just because I was just not expecting that at all. And it's cool because the writers, they play Dungeons and Dragons. And I know one of the actors as well. He plays, I'm not sure about the other one. But I knew nothing about it. I just know what I see on TV.
Yeah.
So I watched some play, really just to see how the dungeon masters were.
Right.
And then I put my own spin on it, and she's just really intense. And, she goes from being like, not timid, but just like easygoing and a little passive to like getting into it and be like, okay, guys, let's go. And like in the most recently released episode, one of our characters, Misha, he's really, really intense, and he's always like this, and he's always like getting like these like rants into the, like really close into the camera. And there's an opportunity where like I get to mimic him.
Okay.
We're out, and it was like I was crying because it was so much fun because you're like making fun of like your friend who's playing somebody,
Inception.
Yeah, it was like
Dungeons
and Dragons Inception. And it's cool, but it's also very intimate filming over Zoom because like I'm used to, having somebody do my hair, having like, do my makeup, having somebody, bring me to set. They set everything up. They make sure that everything is in the right place. That plant is 3 inches to the left. They make sure of everything. And then I was
Okay.
taking on all these roles. So there's that challenge. But it was cool because they really got very creative. We'd
Yeah.
shoot our close-ups individually. So it's like
Okay.
I have a session where I would shoot my close-up, and then we would do a group shot, and then they would kind of
Oh.
interchange them together. So to me, it opened up a whole new world of like what Dungeons and Dragon players are and what they look like, because like I
Yeah.
would never have guessed that these two amazing female writers, Nikki Haggard and Annie Yao, that they would be Dungeons and Dragons like
Yeah.
obsessed people as
Right.
well,
Right.
you know. But I had to rely on them a lot because they were the experts, and they would tell me, okay, well, actually, this is not a good thing, or this would be more serious, or
Yeah.
like rolling a natural 20 is like the best thing ever. I'm like, oh,
Yes. Yeah.
no idea. Like it was just over
Yeah.
my head, it was really fun. It was really cool. Like we just finished filming the entire series not long ago. So there's
Okay.
more episodes left to come out, and they're short and easily digestible. The longest one I think is 12 minutes. So
And are you going, like, now that you've done that, are you interested in playing?
I am.
Okay.
But I feel like like usually it's the opposite. Usually it's like the geek who doesn't want to infiltrate the cool kids because they feel like I'm not going to be accepted. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like, why are you here? Go take your kid.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like I'm going to walk in, like, what's this regular girl doing here? Like,
Yeah.
you don't
Why-
belong, be like out, like, be ousted from the group.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I've been trying to find a crew to put together a Dungeons and Dragons game. Because ever since I started watching the Dimension 20 stuff, like Fantasy High, which was the first season, and they do Dungeons and Dragons in a very different way. Like it's John Hughes meets medieval, like a medieval world.
Okay.
So they're in a high school, but you still have like, one of them is an elf and pirate. Like his parents are an elf and a pirate. So he's like, he has a varsity jacket, but he's an elf and has a like pirate sword and is super brave, but is also kind of silly. And it's just such an interesting thing to watch. And after watching that, I was just like, oh, because I like when you think Dungeons and Dragons originally, it's also just the idea of like the classic Dungeons and Dragons, where like you only have these select ones you can be, and it has to be in this world, and you play that certain way. But now that I've seen that, and I know that there's other options out there, I'm definitely super interested. And now that you've been a dungeon master, I feel like you may have, you might have osmosis. You might have absorbed some of that knowledge a little bit.
I feel like I got so spoiled being able to be the dungeon master, just because like
It's so
first
much
of all, I got to drive the story. Like as the character, she's one who drives the story. Obviously it's kind of choose your own adventure, but I'm the one who kind of plans it out. But then also, like, with all of these characters introduced, like, I get to play with the voices.
Yeah, you play the NPCs, non-playable characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like I got to be like a little squeaky weasel, and I get to be this big ogre, and I get to do all these different things that, like, I don't know. I feel like if I did it for real, I'd probably enjoy it the first time because it's the novelty. And then I'd be like, okay, well, I need to be the dungeon master or I'm out,
Listen, I've already been in control once. It might have been on a show, but I feel like I should just be in control. So
I just feel like it's just like, you know what? Like, if you don't let me take it, I'll probably just take over anyway.
I was just gonna say, you just slowly get up from your seat and go over to the dungeon master, and you just like push them out of their chair and
like,
sit.
Push the chair.
Yeah.
Or I would just probably annoy them so much that they'd be like, you know what?
Here,
You do it.
Yeah.
It's yours now. It's yours now. But like, because I feel like once I learn it and got into it, I'd be that person who'd be like, actually, that's not right. Actually, like, oh my God, Teneisha, like you, like I would go from a newbie to like this like completely obsessed person who's like, actually, the rule book says this. And
my plan is to now 100% get you in to play one first round as a player and totally play with you as a dungeon master. I'm down. This is a goal. You guys are hearing it now. I've been talking. Shout outs to Ian Thomas, Wizzy, Moonchaser. Him and I have been talking about doing a Dungeons and Dragons game for a minute. We are going to do this. We are going to convince
I'm down. I'm totally down. I have a really good feeling you're going to kick me out.
I don't think so.
I get very competitive.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I'm that person where it's like I'm not a sore loser
Yeah.
because I don't lose.
Oh,
You know,
oh,
like I'll do
is that
whatever I
a
can.
off?
Like I'll do whatever I can to not lose. It's not that I don't lose. It's just that like I will do whatever I can not to lose.
Bong. Okay.
I,
I
I've had
am.
people just like give up in the middle of a game of Scrabble. Like my entire family, we were like 20 people. We went camping and we were doing team Scrabble, and like one by one, within 20 minutes, I was playing alone. You're not fun. Like I challenged their words. I'm like, here's a 7-letter word. I'm just really, really annoying with games. I don't like losing, so I just make sure that I don't lose as much as possible. But like when I do lose, I handle it well. I just don't ever get to that point because people usually just quit.
Yeah. I do. This is hilarious because I'm such a like. It's funny because when I play games, I'm so just like laissez-faire. Like I'm not competitive, and it's fun for me when I play with people who are competitive. Hopefully, they're on my team because if they're like, because when they're like, I'm so the level you would be at, you'd probably get annoyed with me because I'd also be like, okay, and I would just withdraw, like not withdraw internally, but I wouldn't be a good competitor for you because you'd be like, this
Mhm.
isn't fun if you're not actually trying. And I definitely would not be trying. And it's really bad when it comes to board games like that. But then the reason that that works for me sometimes is because by not trying and the other people going really intense on me, I kind of just like end up getting lucky sometimes. And then they're just like, you're not even trying and you got, and I'm like, yeah, who knew? Who knew doing this, and this would lead me to win this game of life? And now I have the mansion. I didn't even go to college. Oh well. And yeah.
I think
I've had, I've
it's a
had, yeah, I've had boards flipped on me. Like I'm the kid that's you flipped it?
I've never flipped a board. I've had people
Okay,
flip a board on me because they're just like, you're so annoying.
it's
Like they
so
like
funny. I
yeah,
love
like
I love the fact that we've both had it for completely different reasons.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm like that with even like with anything. Like even I remember like a long time ago, I went to play a game of pickup volleyball with people that I didn't know.
Oh,
One of my friends was like, "Come, let's go to like this park." I have like a
yeah.
bunch of friends who are playing pickup volleyball, and like I'm actually pretty decent at volleyball. I'm not the best, but
Cool.
I'm
Yeah.
the one that you probably want on your team. I didn't know at the time, but I knew that I severely had injured my thumb.
Oh, okay.
But I kept playing for 4 more hours because I was like, "I cannot lose," and then
What?
it turned out that I fractured my thumb. But I just kept playing because I was just like, "No, I can't lose."
Oh
Um,
my God.
so it's one of those things where if there is a way to win, if
Okay.
there's a way for me to get through, then I will do whatever it takes.
Okay.
Like, I'm not gonna all of a sudden, like, outrace Usain Bolt, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
But,
that's fair.
like
But you might trip him up and win.
no, no, but I mean,
Uh,
like, I also, like, I'm self-aware, so I know
yeah,
that, you know what? Like, I'm not the fastest runner. I don't have the best cardiovascular endurance, but hey, you saying you wanna have a dance off? You know? You wanna
oh, okay, I respect it.
you wanna play some volleyball? Like, maybe I can be I'll pick the game, that's all. You just need to know
That's
you need to play your strengths and,
that's fair.
like, know your weaknesses to know, like, when it's time to let that person shine.
I
Like,
love it.
I'll let you have the race, you know?
I love that. I love that. Uh, that's so funny. I I just like that Usain Bolt's the first person we go to. It's just like, yeah, true.
Like,
I
yeah,
mean,
go from pickup volleyball to, like, you know, the fastest man in the world, you know? Go figure.
it's just like, I'm not fast, but let's play some badminton. I got a mean serve, buddy. Like for me, that would be it. I would totally challenge him to badminton because at one point I was pretty aces at badminton.
I feel like every kid in Uptown played badminton on
We
their
had
free
to.
lawn.
We had to.
I feel like every kid, like I we all played badminton, and that brought our cultures together because if
Yeah.
somebody didn't like if there was a new immigrant who didn't speak English or French,
Yeah.
their country probably played badminton still,
Yeah.
and they just come pick it up. It
Yeah.
was so much fun. Yeah.
I sometimes think of it too as the fact like they chose badminton over tennis because they just didn't want us whipping tennis balls at each other. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't throw the shuttlecock. Like you just couldn't. You put all the strength in the world, it would just no. It would Um yeah. Many a times playing because I just remember playing murder. What was it? Suicide ball? What's the one with the where you whip the ball at
With
the
the
wall?
ball, suicide, dodgeball, murder ball, like
All of them, yeah, yeah. Uptown, so many games that we were just playing that we're like, these are some problematic names, but hey, this is fun.
I feel like every single sport involving a ball at some point hit me in the head.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
right.
got hit in the head with a dodgeball, with a softball,
Oh
like
god.
in
Oh
gym
god.
class, dodgeball to the face, like softball to the head. Like I
Bless. Are you, you're okay though.
functions, you know.
We survived. We survived. Uptown. Crazy times. Um, but okay, so well, actually, let's talk about that a bit because, like I said, I went from Uptown to Abbott's, which definitely did not want to go to, but ended up there, had fun. And again, no offense to the people from Abbott, because I know sometimes when I say I didn't want to go to Abbott, people get offended. It wasn't you guys. When you grow up in Uptown and spend your whole time running around schoolyards and stuff like that, and then you get sent to what looks like the campus in American movies, and you're just like, this is a little much for me. Like I didn't want to go to Morehouse light, you know. I If I wanted to go to more, I would have gone to, like, you know, Spelman and all those schools with the huge campus. And
Mm.
like, so it was weird for me. It was weird, like sitting in the quad and watching people play frisbee.
Quad.
Yeah, yeah, that was weird, like all these things. And I ended up at Loyola campus too for university, Concordia University of Montreal. So I also ended up in the quad there, and it was just always these weird campuses where I was just like, this is, you know, green spaces are weird for me. Like that was, if it's not a park surrounded by huge buildings that just don't make sense, I feel uncomfortable. What's all this sky? Um, but what was it like for you? You know, you went to Bedford, and then what were some of the things you did as you were growing up, and that eventually led to you doing your acting and, you know, just thriving in Montreal and being on shows like Younger? The bold type. Apologies.
That's okay.
Both
Um,
real shows. Yes.
so I mean, it's hard to answer that question because acting has been in my life since I was a child,
Mm,
and I've also feel like I've lived so many different lives. So
yeah.
like I mentioned, like I got like, and my grade six teacher Marc André,
Okay.
who I love, he like reminded me on Facebook. Like I think he saw something that I didn't. He was like, I remember your first thing that you did at Bedford, you know.
That's so cute.
Um, so like I got the bite, like I got bitten really really young. Um, through Bedford, I had the opportunity to be on something on Radio Canada, and like just being in front of the camera was amazing. And my uncle owns a record label, so
Cool.
like I went to my first club when I was 5 to watch his artists play. Shout out to MC Jane Cool G and Carl Henry, you know, like back
Oh,
in the
dope.
day, old school, you know. But like, so I grew up being like in all their music videos and things like that, and always wanted to do something in front of the camera. I
Mm.
thought it was Miss America because I watched Miss America. And then I realized, I think I was like 4, and then I realized, well, I'm not American. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to be on TV.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't really think it was anything really, I didn't think it was possible to get to the level that like I'm at and some of my friends who are even further are at in
Mhm.
Montreal.
Mm.
Like when you're that young, you don't really think of it. Like to me, like
Yeah.
it's funny, I met this girl on Instagram and she had said that her dream when she was younger was to be on Barney. And I was like, me
Oh.
too. Like when I was younger, I was like, I want us to go to Vermont because for some reason, I don't know if it's shot there, but in my mind, it's shot in Vermont.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to be on Barney because I just wanted to be on TV. And like from a very young age, I remember just wanting to do this. Um, and I probably heard it on Entertainment Tonight, but I just gave my parents the yellow pages at 10 and was like, find me an agent. And they
Wow.
did. So like even in elementary school, I was leaving school to go to auditions.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, like it was kind of like a quiet thing that I was doing on the side that nobody really knew. It didn't really go anywhere because I had a sister who is she's still here, who's
Yeah.
very, very cute, but was very, very shy. So like they
Okay.
want her to do stuff too, but she hated it. And you can't really be the parent of a child actor unless you're all in. And it's
Yeah.
not fair to like the other child if you're all in and the other one's not in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went to high school in NDG. I went to Royal Vale. And around, I guess when I was 15-ish, my agent closed and opened a casting agency. I didn't like the people who took over her agency, so I just stopped. But
Okay.
but she kept getting me small things because she remembered me from when I was a child. So even though I didn't have an agent, I was still doing TV shows. I was still doing
Yeah.
things here or there. Not under actor, but still it was on TV. It was cool. It was
Yeah.
exciting for me.
And it's, yeah, because actor is important, but for you, it was just like, I would like to just do some stuff in front of the camera.
Well, then I didn't even know what ACTRA was.
Fair. Yeah.
Like ACTRA is like SAG in Canada.
Yeah.
So they set the minimum rates. They protect you. Like to me, like I could not, like I work ACTRA and like that's all that I do. But back then I was just happy to be on TV. Even like I would do
Yeah.
it for free, but I was getting paid to be on TV and to
That's so
do
cool.
magazines and stuff. But I was also a nerd. Like I went to a math and science high school. So
Yeah.
I followed science and CEGEP. I studied health sciences. I did biology in university, and then very quickly realized that I love learning about it, but I don't ever want to work in it.
Yeah.
Switched to marketing, which was kind of like a natural affinity for me, but I still missed acting,
Mm.
and in my mind, I was just like, okay, like what can I do that will feed that beast? Because like I don't even know where it came from. It's not like somebody instilled it in me. None of my parents are entertainers. But I've always had that urge to perform.
Yeah.
Well,
You have the bug, and that's cool. And I think that there's a lot of young people out there.
it's an obsession, and like
Yeah.
it's like a drug for me. So like in my like around like 21, I just got back into it, and just through I guess just like through like not even luck, but just through like meeting the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
I found the best training. I found, like I got to perform at the Centaur. I found a really good
Oh,
agent. And then slowly things started picking up very slowly. But it wasn't, I'd say, until about 8 years ago that like I started working consistently, even
mhm.
though not everybody was aware of it, but I was working consistently. And it's kind of been this like hyperbolic climb,
Yeah, yeah.
and which is really cool. But it's interesting because I've had so many lives, like I've worked in sales, I work in marketing, like I do all these different things, and I've done all these different things that some people only know me as like the science, the science person. Some people
Yeah.
only know me like I cheered all through CEGEP and university competitively, and then I started the Team at Concordia.
Oh,
I
dope.
choreographed it. Like I still have my pom poms. Some people only know me as like the cheerleader, and some
Mhm.
people only know me as the actor. And then there's so many different facets. So it's like it's kind of while like I part of me wishes that where I am now happened like 10 years ago.
Mm.
Part of me is also very grateful because I have so many different tools that I can
Yeah.
use to access different facets of the industry. Like now I'm writing, and I don't think that if I had gotten here 10 years ago, I don't think I would have had the urge. I wouldn't have had the experiences that I have to be able to like to do what I'm doing.
And it's kind of that classic thing of like they say youth is wasted on the young. Like you like because and it's true. I've had many thoughts because there's so many things that I've done in broadcast that I look back and I'm like, if I could take the knowledge I have now
Yeah.
and put it in just Brian at 22 and be like, dude, this is what you should be doing. This will equal this, and it's just like, man, that's crazy. And yeah, and it's just always that sense of, but
Yeah.
then at the same time, it's so wonderful for us to feel like that sense of accomplishment too at the age that we're at now too. Like I
100%. And I think it's
yeah.
one of those things where, like, look, like for me, I'm like, if I could put the talent and experiences into like 22-year-old Tanisha's body,
Mm,
like that would be amazing. But at the same time, like I am incredibly proud because I've
yeah. And you
look
should be.
like I'm not that person where if you don't like I don't really get recognized for the most part. Like I do every now and then, but I'm not that person where you're like, oh, you're that girl.
Mhm.
But in my industry, if I had, let's say, like 15 years ago, all of a sudden like booked this big thing and started working, like I don't think I would have had the level of respect that I have now in this
Mm,
industry. So
mm.
it's like I've built a reputation within my industry um, that took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and effort, and like disappointment. Um, but it wouldn't have been the same if I struck gold at 16.
Yeah.
I would have just been that kid who was lucky. You know,
Yeah.
whereas now, like and that's something that the acting coach that I stumbled upon, Jacqueline McClintock, who unfortunately passed away, she would always instill in me when I was like 21 years old.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, you're cute, you're bubbly, but she's like, people are gonna think that you're booking roles because you're cute and you're bubbly.
Mm.
But and she goes, you're good, but she goes, you need to make sure that you work hard so that when those opportunities come to show your talent versus just like Blue Mountain State, my role was hot campus girl number 2,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the roles that you expect to get, but it's more that so number one, so that when you get those opportunities for something deeper that they're taking a chance on you with, because they only see you as like a gossip girl type person,
Yeah.
you can show them what you have and that you're ready to do it. But also you don't want to just nobody wants to just play the hot person their whole life,
I yeah,
or nobody wants to play one thing, the hot person, the geek, the
exactly. Yeah.
jock, like nobody wants to just do that. So for me, what was amazing is that through like, and it wasn't, she wasn't saying that to bring me down. She was saying that to just remind me to like fully develop myself as opposed
Yeah.
to coast. Because I think
Yeah.
it's so easy to coast, especially when like right place, right time, right meeting happens often for me.
Yeah.
Like I've had many opportunities where it's like, oh, like, we talked about meeting a celebrity, which is like I was just at this place and it's like, oh, I met them. And then we became friends or something. That happens. That's happened to me many times,
Yeah.
but that's not gonna get you all the way, right? So I got very fortunate that like I worked really hard at developing my public vulnerability, to
Yeah.
be able to like be vulnerable and truthful, to be able to play these dramatic roles. So
And you have such an excellent range. And I think one of the things that's funny when we were talking about being like an excellent master on Dungeons and Distancing, playing the dungeon master, and as much as people think of a dungeon master, it's just like a character. When you were describing what a dungeon master does, a lot of people don't realize like a good dungeon master is someone who has the wide range. And it's funny that you, through your experiences and working hard, develop such an amazing range
thank
that
you.
you could then get a role like that where it shines in such a perfect way. It's not, you didn't intend for it to be, you didn't intend to bring such like gravitas or energy to a character like that, but you do naturally because you've just done so much, and that's what's so cool about it.
Well, thank you. Thank
And
you.
no, it really is. And when you were talking about it, when you were talking about playing the role, and then you're talking about the things you've done, for me as a nerd, I see that all coming together because I'm just like, yes, that's what you
Yeah,
know.
and I think that like I've been very blessed in my career so far to be able to play, these like the dungeon master, which sounds like such a light role, but it's so intricate. Or
Yes.
to play, like the hot campus girl, but to also be able to, to do these deeply dramatic and moving
Yeah.
projects as well. That like if like 15 years ago, like I had it in me to do it like in front of my mirror, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
do it in front of the camera and in a believable way that makes you want to feel too. So those experiences kind of helped me further develop myself. And now I like the I thrive and I love, and it sounds really sad, but like I love the most dramatic roles ever. Like I love the roles that involve like, your heart breaking into a million pieces, even though it's so hard on me, like on my heart to do
Yeah.
it. Like the embers of magic start like building up inside of me. And it's something that I didn't feel when I was 22 years old. Like I didn't know how to
Mm,
access that at
that's cool.
22. I didn't have like the training or the life experience or just like
Yeah.
not even the life experience, just the awareness of who I am
Mhm.
and like all the different facets of who we are as one, like, 'cause I'm not just one person.
Yeah.
I didn't have that at 22. I was
Man.
at 22, I was literally like, I was the cheerleading nerd, and already the fact that I knew that duality was
Yeah.
cool. But now, like the list is endless of what you want.
Yeah.
You feel the same way. There's so many different things that, like, in any given moment, depending on the situation, you're 10 different people, and you're still authentically you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And and I feel like that's something that a lot of people don't realize because when we're younger, you belong to cliques, and then you identify with cliques for a
yeah,
really long time. And even as you grow older, you still tend to identify like I have always identified as a nerd and as a geek. And it's only when I got into radio and broadcasting that I saw other people being really into things one of my friends is into electronic music and like glitch sound and stuff like that. And I remember him the first time I heard someone refer to themselves as a geek and not be talking about superheroes and stuff like that.
mhm,
It was confusing because in my head, I was just like, no, no, I'm a geek. What are you
yeah,
talking about? And he was explaining to me like, well, no, you can be a geek for other things. And then it just started to open my mind to like, oh yeah, geekdom is not only comic books, it's whatever passion you might have, and then that branches off into other things that you might have interest in and other people have interest in. And next thing I knew, I was like thinking about all these things connecting that I just never looked at that way and
yeah.
I never thought of before. And it was such an interesting thing to realize then, which was like, I don't know, I'm 37 now, so maybe 15 years ago, that I am more than the one thing I thought I was in high school.
and that embrace like and that comes from life experience and from meeting other people.
Yes.
So like for me, like one of the best things that I did, it like Royalville, my high school at the time was like 70% Jewish, you
Mm,
know. And it was great. Like I got to meet a whole bunch of different people, but then
yeah.
I went to Dawson, and Dawson we had like the Jew calf, you know. I
Yes.
don't
It's
know
like,
what it was called, but that's what they called it, you know.
yeah.
So I kind of made the decision to not spend all of my time there with the same people.
Mm,
You know, these are people who went to my school from elementary school, and then they're meeting up with all their camp friends that I know as well. But I kind of, I don't even know where I got the realization, but I kind of looked at this and I was like, I'm going to be the same person forever if
mm.
I stay in this calf.
Yeah.
And I went to like the atrium, and I went to Conrad's, and I went to different places, and I did activities outside of my friends group. I decided to do things that I just wanted to do. Like I
Yeah.
started cheerleading, I started doing different things like that, and that opened things up for me. And then
And
in
that's
university,
that's brave too, by the way, because it's scary to like, at least for when we're young, it's scary to be like, I could stay in the comfort zone with my friends and know these people are here for me, or I can venture out into the world where I don't know what's going to happen when I do these activities.
but it's also thrilling. Like
Yeah.
some of the best experiences I had, like I was in a sorority at Concordia, you know,
Cool.
and that was something that like on my bucket list, like I wanted to go to like an American university, and
Yeah.
because I decided to stay in Montreal, I had very young siblings when I started CEGEP. I had a baby brother who was just born. I didn't want to leave,
Yeah.
um, and so I was like, I'm going to try to just make the most out of my college experience as much as I can. So I joined a sorority, I joined cheerleading, I did competitive cheerleading, and I met people from not just all over the city and all over the province, but all over the world.
Yeah. That's so
And
cool.
that opened so much up to me, and it brought good and bad experiences, but
Mm.
it expanded my worldview beyond Uptown, beyond
Yeah.
Royalville, beyond the Jew calf, beyond all these things, and it like multiplied that duality, and
Mhm.
it uncovered different things inside of me, and it was not liberating because I never felt trapped. Like I
Mm.
was like I loved high school. I loved my experience. I love my friends. I
Yeah.
still have friends from high school, but I just felt like I still
Well,
remember that like you know, I wasn't just existing. I was living. You know, when
yeah.
existing and like being this stereotype and being this like caricature and archetype. Like I don't want to be an archetype. Like I'm not just
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
No, I
and
get that.
I think that that's like the beauty of life is that you know we are multitudes, and you got to lean into it sometimes. If not, then you feel
I
stuck.
love
You feel stuck.
Yeah, I love how casually you talk about it. Uh, when I know for a fact for me, facing that stuff was scary. Like I'm like the way you sound like you went through it was like the adventure, and I think that's one of the things that's definitely cool about who you've described yourself and how you see yourself and how other people see you, and just like the idea of like, I'll do what I have to do to win is also that bravery, and like I will venture into these uncharted waters and I will survive because
Mhm.
I'm going to find something fun and interesting to do. And it's I definitely wasn't like when I was younger. I always say when I was younger, I always said I like to talk a lot, but I'm not saying much. And
Mhm.
I used to feel like that all the time. Like I'll be outgoing, but I'm not really. I wasn't venturing beyond my comfort zone when I needed to. And it's only like I feel not recently because at 37, I feel like I've been doing it for at least 10 years, but that's the period of time where I feel like I've got comfortable with knowing that like this is who I am and I can be okay with not knowing things and learning new things and experiencing new things and you know and that weird sense that some of us get when we think we're right about something but we could ultimately be wrong, and just accepting like it's okay to be wrong sometimes.
Yeah, and that's
um
some of the most beautiful moments come from discovering you're wrong and learning.
yeah.
You
Yes.
know,
Yes,
but it's
100%.
also one of those things where, like you talk about, and yeah, it was definitely a journey and an experience. But I think it came from like I grew up uptown, which
Mm.
to me, like I was so sheltered. Like there's so much that happened in that community, and they were probably like right next door to me that I was so sheltered. Like I was in my like my mom would call me Lala. I was in my own little world, you know. So I feel like it probably came from that of like this urge that okay, like I'm 17 years old,
Mm.
and this is my environment. It's safe, but like I wanted to go to school in the States. So why can't I just learn through this? And it's something that I feel like having, and I don't think I did it intentionally. I think that like certain things like leaving the Jew cap, that was intentional, you know,
Mhm.
because I really wanted to meet other people.
Yeah.
I love my friends, but other things wasn't always intentional. It was more just it was a pull,
Mm.
where it's like I'm pulled to do this, I'm pulled to do that, I'm pulled to meet other people. And I feel like it's a cycle of life for me, where it's like I go through this period where I am comfortable and I'm learning and I'm thriving. And then I feel not stuck, but like a little stagnant.
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
not like stagnant, just like a little too comfortable. And then
Mm.
it's like, okay, time to and I'm not the kind of person who's like time to shake everything up and like throw my
Yeah.
world upside down, but it's like time to add to that toolbox. What can I
Yes.
do to add to that toolbox? And
Yeah.
I always joke that I'm gonna live forever because there's so many things that I wanna do. So it's more like, okay, well, on that list of things that I wanna do, what can I add to it? What can I add to expand
Abs
the circle? So it's like the most recent thing that I did is like I submitted a show to Netflix through a pitch initiative that they had, and then
Cool,
I
yeah.
selected as one of the finalists. So I got to actually like pitch my
Dude,
series to like a Netflix
awesome.
executive in LA, and it was terrifying because
Yeah.
it was new to me. It was new territory, but it was also thrilling because I was just like, I'm drawn to do this.
Yeah.
Whether I get laughed out of the room or whether they love it, it doesn't matter because I'm going to survive it and it'll catapult me to the next thing. And it's
Yeah.
opened all these other doors to me. And I think that like it's so easy and it's happened to me too, where it's like we live in fear,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
because like, look, like the fight or flight complex like that, in the caveman days, it was, actually life or death.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
now that fight or flight is, oh shit, I have to actually call my doctor to make an appointment. And then you feel all this anxiety and you're like,
Yeah.
why do I feel so anxious about like when I go to my parents' house, mom's like, can you pay the pizza delivery guy? I'm like, why do I have to pay him?
Yeah.
And it's these like stupid things that like trigger that fight or flight response.
Yeah.
And I've kind of learned through different experiences to slowly lean into it, very small steps,
Mm.
because then you look at it and you're like, well, I didn't die. Obviously, like if it's jumping off a building, you don't do it. But if it's something
Yeah.
like, hey, like, for you, maybe you have this person, your dream guest for your podcast,
Yeah.
and like, I'm going to reach out to them,
Yeah.
but something tells you not to because you're afraid. But then you're like, well, if I do and they say no, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to
Yeah.
lose everything. They're not going to laugh me out of the room. What do I have to lose? And
To Tomi Ayodemi, the author of Child and Bones, that's
do
her.
it. Do
Because
it.
I did. She said she couldn't. She had. And it's funny because I did it right before she did the Tonight Show. Like
So
it
that's
was like, yeah, it was like a week before. Like obviously they'd already been in the works, but like a week before, like she really blew up in the like common, like people, everyone was aware of her. I was just like looking into her and I was just like, man, this book sounds amazing. And I had just started reading the book and I was just like, I want to talk to her about this before I even finish the book. And I was just like, no, you should finish the. And anyways, so I just emailed and then her assistant was just like, oh, I'm sorry, she's not taking interviews at the moment. But I still did it. But yes, there was that moment of like,
did it empower you to do it again with other people though?
yes, 100%.
Because
Yeah.
you're just like, well, I did it before, nothing happened. Then you could do something a
Yeah.
little bit bigger and a little bit bigger,
Yeah.
and it's nothing that's going to kill you, but it's
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But like, it's still scary.
Yeah.
It's still
And
scary.
it's funny because I've never thought of myself as a type to be embarrassed, but it was definitely that moment of just like it was almost like if I shoot my shot now, I'll never get to shoot that shot again was the mentality. Because even if I wasn't afraid of shooting the shot, it was just like, do you want to take it now? Because you might never get to take that shot again. It's just like, well, no, I could literally email. Yeah, I could email her again now and be like, hey, I still would love to talk to you if ever you have the time. And it's, yeah, that's, yeah. One of the things that you said that I latched onto that I think is super important, it was the idea that when we're comfortable, it's not necessarily just stepping out of the comfort zone, but looking at it as adding a new skill. That is one of the best ways to put that I've ever heard, because I think that's so interesting that because some people think of it as going outside of the comfort zone, which adds even more fear to it. When you flip it and think of the positive, like I'm adding a new skill to my skill sets, is so positive, and it's such a great way to look at it. Yeah, I just wanted to really I wanted to emphasize that because I thought it was great.
Sometimes I feel, and like I joke about it. Sometimes it feels like you're like a character in a video game, and you're adding, you're upgrading.
Oh
You're
yeah,
adding
yeah,
a new weapon, you're adding a new skill, and that's what it feels like.
yeah,
And it's silly, but like sometimes I look at that and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like I'm exactly doing that. I'm like I'm adding my rapier or something.
yeah. That's cool.
But I just feel like a lot of people feel the reason that a lot of people don't take my conversations, they don't take the steps to like make change or to not even change, but just like to evolve a little bit,
Mm.
It's not just because of the fear that they're comfortable where they are and of the fear of change. It's more that they see it as an all or nothing. So they,
Yeah.
if I need to go from like, I'm an accountant and I hate it to being a writer, then that means that I need to quit my job right now and go and like try to start writing. And it's like, no, you don't need to like burn the boat. You don't need to burn the city down and tear everything.
Yeah.
You can add something to your toolbox that will then give you more tools to then, slowly get to where you need to be. You don't need to throw everything out the window.
That's yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. We were supposed to talk about you on TV shows, but we are talking about life
Sorry.
altering things. No, this is great. Like this is why I love having these conversations. When I first started doing this, so I started doing Not a Journalist more so when I got laid off from work last year during the like early days of the pandemic, and since then I got brought back. But I just needed something to do daily because it felt really daunting to not have anything to do. It was just that sense of like, oh, well, my job is what I was doing every day. And then I came home to relax. What do
Yeah.
you do when you don't have the daily job? So I was furloughed and I was just like, okay, I got to figure out something. And I love podcasting. I love talking to people. And the first ones, and again, it was very much that thing of like, at first I started doing solo episodes, just like talking about stuff. And that was, again, not a fear, but more just a sense of like, I hadn't done it before. And it was, like you said, it just every step got easier as I added. And I feel like I've added to my toolbox or my skill sets by being able to have better one-on-one conversations. Because even when I used to do my radio show at CJLO, I had a great time doing the show. I got to go to Zurich, Switzerland, and represent Canada at international radio festivals. I got to interview the GZA. I've interviewed Tech9, all these different people, but all those interviews always felt daunting because I was just like, oh my god, I got to make sure I don't say certain things to the GZA, and like you kind of just stutter and freak
Put them
out,
on a
and then
pedestal and like you.
yeah. And then, once, and it's funny that doing Not a Journalist last year was when I felt I was like the peak of my like conversation skills, because I don't look at them in interviews. I look at them as just trying to have conversations with people. And now again, this is one of those situations where like I know I don't have to live in the past, but God, I would love to, you know what, maybe funny enough, maybe I will reach out to the GZA again, because it's like one of those times where yeah, it's just like, dude, we had a great conversation back then and I didn't know what I was doing. At least I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. Now that I feel like I know what I'm doing, talking to the GZA or the RZA or anyone from Wu-Tang for that matter would be such an interesting conversation for me to have. Like it would be so much fun to
Yeah.
explore that stuff.
I just feel like I took this course in university, this marketing course, and one of the assignments was to pick the CEO of a company
Oh, cool.
and have a conversation with them. Okay.
Mm.
And 90% of the people were able to reach them. Like 90% of the people in the class were able to do it because
Wow.
you get so daunted. And the fact is that these people, like most, like they sometimes they get a lot of requests, but a
Mm.
lot of times they don't. And it's just being strategic. So it's like, hey, like call at 7 o'clock in the morning when the receptionist isn't there yet. And they get directly to their room. But it's these things where, because you're like, I can't call the president of Bank of Montreal.
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer the phone, but they're just still a person.
Yeah.
They're still a person. So
Yeah.
it's like once you remember that, then you take them off that pedestal and you realize that, hey, they might not answer, but like, why am I not going to try it at the fear that it's not going to work out? Like
Yeah.
you're already stunting your growth before even
Yeah.
taking that first step.
Yeah.
And like I say, and like don't get it twisted. Like I know I'm talking like I got it all figured out. I do this all the time too. Like it's like
Yeah.
it's a continuous relearning process, right? Where it's like cyclical. Like I said, you do it, you're like, oh my God, I'm killing it. I'm taking all the risks. And I'm like, okay, I'm really, really safe in my bubble now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, time to do this again. So it's an nonstop up and down process.
Do you feel like the auditions that you've done as you've been growing, you've gone for roles that you wouldn't have gone for originally because of this growth? Yeah. Okay. You're already nodding. Yeah.
100%. I mean, look, like, first of all, it's the fact that the casting in Montreal and in Toronto now, because they know me as well too.
Cool. Yeah.
They either like they've cast me in things, so they trust me. They know my reputation. They've also seen what I can do. I also have an amazing agent who like, look, like we're the same age, but I play very, very young. Like we both look way younger, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so I like my typical age that I play is like 25, 26, 27. But
Yeah.
she pushes me into into older roles and then which are often more interesting. And
Mm.
then they'll just be like, yeah, we'll just lower the age or something. But look, like I've auditioned for Star Trek, I've auditioned
Oh.
for Why the Last Man, like
Oh, I'm so
I
excited for that show. Yeah.
yeah, like I've had like really amazing auditions and I find that especially I guess since 2018, 2019, which is when I filmed Fatherhood, when I
Hmm.
filmed Future Man, I filmed a whole bunch of different shows that were either that are well received or that were really anticipated that
Mm.
kind of like gave me an extra clout.
Yeah.
So now like I've auditioned for Vancouver for like these amazing shows and they're all lead or supporting characters that definitely 10 years ago, even if I had the opportunity, I don't, and I probably had the talent then, but I don't think I had the the guts or like
Mm.
I don't think I had like the chutzpah like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
to be able to like properly embody that. It's like I had the talent, but I
Mm.
didn't have it in me to properly bring that out.
Mm.
Whereas now I feel like it's just like I don't get intimidated by those roles. I don't get intimidated by working with certain people. It's more like, yeah, bring it on. Let's hope something comes out of it. If not, speak
Yeah.
up next because auditions is just like constantly pitching, right? So we're constantly auditioning. But I've had some really amazing auditions for shows that I'm like, "Oh, this is amazing. I should book it." And I didn't book it because it's disappointing. I've
Mm.
had auditions that I thought were like not bad, but just like, "Oh, I could have done better." And then you're
Mm.
like, "They loved it and I book it," you know? But I've definitely had some really fun opportunities and hopefully there's more. Obviously there's gonna be more, but I look forward to just like that really exciting that role that's really exciting that I actually book again, you know?
Yeah. I want to point out for fatherhood because you mentioned it. We had a conversation where you said the Obamas have like know who I am.
Yeah.
Can we take a moment to center ourselves, a deep breath?
So I've
Barack
known about
Obama.
this for like a month and I'm still not centered about it. I'm still
Yeah,
frustrated. I'm going crazy inside.
I feel like I have goosebumps just knowing I know someone that the Obamas know. Like that to me seems like such a wonderful and amazing thing to feel. Like, first things first, what? Tell me the story. Like, tell me about fatherhood. Tell me about the Obamas. What's the connection? How? See, I'm jumbled right now, just even trying to think about it.
So like first of all, like I love the Obamas. I think like every black person loves the Obamas, but like I
Right.
love the Obamas. Like I saw them when I was in DC at like 3 days after his reelection. Like I
So,
saw them in DC. I saw like in person, you know, like I saw Michelle when she came here for her becoming
oh
tour.
yes, yes, yes.
Um, And so fatherhood, so for me, like the connection is amazing because like my dream, like I love Barack, my dream, like about Michelle to me is the ultimate role model. Like I want to just like bask in the glory of like all that she
Right?
is, you know. And like if Barack's there, that's great. Like I love
Yeah,
him.
I know, yeah,
He's so intelligent.
yeah,
He's such a great role model too. But there's something about Michelle
yeah,
that
yeah,
like she's my Oprah, like, she's my second
yeah.
Oprah, you know? But fatherhood to me is look, like, when you do a production, you never really know, even if you're the star, how much of you is gonna make it into the film and how much is being cut. This is the only project that I'm like, "I don't care if I'm cut out of the whole movie, people
Mm,
just need to know this story."
okay.
So, it's based on a true story of Matt Loughlin, who him and his wife, they're from Minnesota. They move to California and they get married and she gets pregnant. They start a blog to keep their family in Minnesota up to date on her pregnancy,
Yeah.
complications. She gives birth a little bit early. And then 28 hours after delivery, she dies.
Mm,
Um, which, like, I remember reading this script. I got the script when I was coming back from Miami to Montreal. And within 5 pages of the script, I'm at the bar in the airport bawling my eyes out.
yeah.
It's such a moving story. So his blog quickly went from, you know, a pregnancy update for their family to just like a data dump of his feelings.
Yeah.
She was the maternal one, she was the parental one. He's this guy who's just there with this baby girl who does not know what he's doing. So as he's struggling to learn how to raise his daughter, um, who's, by the way, she just turned 13 2 days ago. She's incredible.
Wow.
And he's struggling to raise his daughter. It becomes kind of like a blog, and
Mhm.
that blog gains traction. And then it becomes a memoir, Two Kisses for Maddie, because every night he put her to bed and give her one kiss from him and one kiss from her mother.
Oh,
Um,
goddamn.
So the movie is a story about fatherly love,
Mm.
about you know, just like trying to figure it out, but also him finding love again through the memory of his dead, through flashbacks of his dead wife.
Yeah.
It allows him to find love again, and it's not a spoiler because it's very well known, with a woman who has the same name as his wife, as his
Mm.
wife. And now it's 13 years later. He's married to this woman who, she was like an executive producer of Bob's Burgers. She's like,
Oh,
she's a genius in her own right. They have another baby, and it's, for me, it's so cool to see how their story was and where they are now.
yeah, I was
Um,
gonna say, because you get to see the IRL of that,
Yeah.
like,
And
the
it's also
movie.
so cool because look, like, they were supposed to make this movie in 2015 with Channing Tatum because Matt
Oh,
Loughlin is white.
okay. Okay.
Kevin Hart is playing Matt Loughlin.
Yeah, I was gonna say, interesting, yeah.
When has that ever happened?
Yes, I know.
Never.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that's so, like, and it's not something that you would ever think of, but I
Mhm.
know that if it was a story of my life and they wanted Emma Stone to play me, I would be like, "Hell no." Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I want a Black person to play me. And I think that it's pretty cool that, like, he has this Black man. It becomes this. It's not a Black movie, but it's a Black story, right?
Yeah,
It's a primarily Black cast, um, telling the story of this white family.
interesting.
Um, and it's great because you get to see, like, you follow her, you see her from birth, but it's really at the age of 5 to 7. You see
Okay.
them, and you see positive Black fathering. You know,
Yeah.
you see this like headstrong, tough little girl, Melody Hurd, who is like, she's now one of the stars of them, the Covenant
Oh,
on Prime. Yeah,
yeah, cool,
he
cool,
is a
cool.
powerhouse. Like, so it's cool to see that evolution. And basically, it was supposed to have a theatrical release. Then Ms. Rona came,
Yeah,
and
God.
the date kept changing. It
Yeah.
kept changing. It kept changing, and then finally, I think it was January. Kevin Hart had announced a 4 picture deal with Netflix,
Oh, okay.
and from then it was like I kind of knew, even though nobody would say anything because,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and NDAs until it's public. But I kind of knew that it would kind of go on Netflix.
Mm.
And the Obamas have a production company called Higher Ground.
Right, yes.
So
And they have a deal with Netflix.
yes,
Yeah.
so Kevin Hart has a deal with Netflix, and the Higher Ground has a deal with Netflix. So they acquired the worldwide rights to fatherhood, in every country except for China, because China is a different. I don't even know if they have Netflix in China, but in every country worldwide except for China. So on
Okay,
June 18th, it'll be broadcast. It'll be premiering around the world
awesome.
by the Obamas, which is amazing. And I honestly, it's one of those look, it's 2 years later, and
Yeah.
I'm still so attached to this project. Everything about it is stuck with me, and I can't wait for people to actually learn this story and meet these people and like see Kevin Hart in a truly dramatic role, because
Okay.
he's going to surprise people. I think he's really going to surprise people.
I'm excited. I think one of the things I love about what Kevin's been doing lately is he's really the positive Black father image. Like, he's really pushing that forward, because I mean, you and I both grew up watching all these TV shows, and you had Uncle Phil and Cosby, and who unfortunately,
We
is
lost
what
him.
that is. Yeah. And then you had the dad from Family Matters, Reginald.
Carl Winslow. Yeah.
Yeah, Carl Winslow. So we've had these very specific characters, but then then you start to think of, like, on the like white sitcoms. There's like 101 of them, right?
Yeah.
You have from like the 50s, 40s, all the way down to, even if it was radio docs, it's just all the way down till today. You've had that image of, like, the Bob Saget's as the dads on these Full Houses, and that's just what it's been. So when you look back and there's not as many. You had Damon, who did it too for Wife and Kids.
Yeah.
Like, like the fact that I feel like I could name all the Black father
Yeah.
sitcoms on like two hands, and it still squeezes into from like the 80s till now. I'm happy that we are venturing out of that, and that we're getting more examples, and they're, like, entertainment in general is just telling more of those stories.
Yeah, and it's also not just a positive Black father influence, but it's also a single father and, like, the
Yes.
realities of that struggle with the girl,
Yeah.
you know, because she is a tomboy. I play her teacher in her Catholic school,
Okay.
um, and, you know, and there's conflicts around that because it's like there are certain like, you know, there's certain things that maybe, like, traditional gender roles that aren't being not aren't at play, but aren't being introduced to this
Mhm.
child being raised by this single guy, you
Yeah.
know? And it's not because it's like it doesn't matter if she's a tomboy or not. It's just that she wasn't being presented with these things. So
Mhm.
there's I kind of create some conflict in the movie.
And I look forward to it.
But to me it's really cool to see that. It's really cool to see, you know, Alfred Woodard plays his mom, plays his mother-in-law, you
Okay.
know, which is like
She's
that
awesome.
in itself. That to me
She's a
was like
great
enough that I'm
actress.
gonna be on the screen with her. What was cool though is that at the beginning of 2019, I made a list of all the actors that I wanted to work with.
Mhm.
And first of all, I realized that 80% of that list was people that I actually knew, like friends
Cool.
of mine who were just like so incredible. But Kevin Hart was on that list.
Okay.
So and she was on that list too. So to be able to
That's so dope.
both off was so amazing. And yeah,
I'm so
it's
I'm so happy and
2 years
excited
in the
for you.
making for me and 13 years in the making for Matt and Maddie. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think it's gonna be an amazing project. Look, like it was written and adapted to the screen by Paul Weitz.
Okay.
You ever seen the movie About a Boy, which is one of my favorite
Oh, wow.
movies?
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
co-wrote that with his brother and directed that, and they were nominated for an Oscar. He
Yeah.
also directed American Pie, but to me, it's About a Boy, and also Mozart's. Oh my god, I can't remember the name, but
In
his
the Jungle? The
sorry,
You were saying Mozart's
it's a TV show called Mozart at the Jungle. Mozart at the
Mozart's in the Jungle. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he
That's
directed
a
that
great show.
he directed that as well.
Oh,
So
dope. Okay.
he's so gifted,
Yeah.
and he's has this talent to be able to just kind of let the magic happen,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
Man,
know?
especially, like, Mozart's such a good example of that, because that shows very much about the magic and how it, like, connects throughout the whole story through music
Yeah.
and this orchestra. So that's wild. Yeah, cool.
Like there were a lot of scenes where I was supposed to be in the scene, but like I didn't have any lines. Like it's just like it's like a school scene or something's happening, and I'm just there. And then like Kevin Hart would be like, I'm sorry, I just realized I'm like just dropping like Kev.
By
Um,
all means.
he'd be like, but like I know her already. Why isn't she saying anything? Or like
Yeah.
Paul would be like, well, you should be saying something. I'm like, okay, so what do you want me to say? And then Paul would just be like, say what feels right. Just go with that,
Okay.
and we'll see what happens. And that was the whole thing. Like I'd come in and I'd be like, okay, what's the intention in this scene? And he'd be like, just do what feels right for you, and we'll adjust if necessary.
Oh,
So
dope.
like the character that I auditioned for, which we did it like 20 million different ways, and who I actually brought on screen are
Yeah.
very, very different because it was all like just a guttural thing. Like it all just came from like inside,
Yeah.
based on him allowing me to just do my thing and be
Awesome. Yeah.
free and like perform and like just live it with these people. Because all of my scenes are with Melody, his daughter, like the Kevin Hart's TV daughter,
Yeah.
and then like 90% are also with Kevin. Those are
Yeah.
the like I have like one other actor in my scene, maybe a few kids, but like all of my scenes are with them. So it's just me playing off of them the whole time. So I think that's why, because he just let us be us, and
Mm.
like there are certain elements about like my friendship with this little girl Melody, that he even integrated into like the father daughter thing like on screen.
Cool.
Like she like so Melody, her and her sister, remember the song Juju on that beat?
Yes.
So her and her sister did a video and it went viral, and they read it on Ellen, and that launched their acting career. But
Oh,
they
wow.
just happened to be like a very, very talented group of kids. So like she's always dancing. She was teaching me all these choreographies. She was teaching me how to floss. I still can't do it. But like Paul would see things that we were doing and the dances that we'd make up, and then he'd be like, "Can you teach that to Kevin?"
Okay.
And they would do that. So to me, it's like no matter how much I'm cut out of the film, I still see my influence in so many parts of it.
Yeah.
like different relationship things that we did, or through like, like a very dramatic scene, and then Kevin would be like, "You do drama, how is that?" Like, to see that vulnerability, it's really it's like a fever dream. It's like a NyQuil fever dream,
Well,
like
I just like that the depiction sounds so organic, which is something that I like, the idea of, like, because, for example, the most organic thing that on TV should be, quote unquote, reality TV, in the sense that it's supposed to be real television. This is real life, and we just
yeah,
put cameras on. But most reality TV shows are scripted. And what you're describing with this story is, interactions you've had with the young actress was found a way to inspire scenes in the movie. That to me sounds more real and organic than any of the other stuff that the on, like,
yeah.
reality TV stuff. And I think that's cool that process that the director brought, and that process that you guys as a team, because you guys were being a team and a
Yeah.
family, brought onto the screen
There's
is
so
really
much
cool.
humanity brought to this, and there's so much
Yeah.
realness, and look, like, I think it's like, and like so much love brought to this, like
Yeah.
you see Kevin brushing his daughter's hair,
Oh yeah.
and like you see like a black man brushing his daughter's hair on
Right.
screen, like I've never seen that on a TV show or movie before.
Yeah.
Um, but that's also like that's how I perform. Like everything that I do is grounded in truth, even if I'm playing a completely different character than who I am.
Hmm.
Like it has to come from truth,
Yeah.
right? So for me, that set was really just an opportunity to just live organically. And obviously, there's a script. There
Of
was
course.
a
Yeah.
script.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There was a script, but there were so many moments where, like, the oopsies became magic. You
Yeah.
know, so many moments like that. Especially, let's say, the school scenes when you're working with 50 kid extras,
Oh yeah.
who are
The
while
energy.
we're filming, they'll be like, "Excuse me, I like to Kevin Hart. Excuse me, I see you on TV. Can you take a selfie with me?" And he's like, "Just go, just." And it's like you have to be ready for unpredictable moments. But
I love it.
like a lot of the movie was filmed like in pockets because there's a very big cast.
Mm.
Kevin Hart and Melody Hurd are the stars, but then you have Alfred Woodard, you have Lil Rel Howery, you have Deborah Arindy, you have DeWanda Wise, you have
Oh wow.
you have Anthony Carrigan, you have like basically there's like I'm like I'm the one Canadian non-star among like all these big names. But because of that, like everybody, they'd film it, like everybody would come for like 5, 6, 7 days at a time, and then you
Hmm.
just film everything in a block.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I didn't have any scenes with Alfred Woodard. Like I wasn't even on. I think I was on set with her once on the same day,
Okay.
but otherwise there was no overlap because it's like all of these scenes were done at this time, all the home
And
scenes.
yeah.
That was the only downside. So there's a lot of magic that I heard about like secondhand. I became friends with the little girl's mother, who's also named Teneisha.
Oh
Um,
cool.
so I'd hear from her, and I'd hear from like Kevin's team things that happened, or from the director, and I'm like, damn it, I missed it. Like, oh man. But I definitely, it's a special project. I think that I hope everybody falls in love with Matt and Maddie
I'm looking forward to it.
as much
I'm
as I.
looking forward to it. Like, there's so much stuff that you just told me that I didn't even know, that I'm intrigued by it, and this experience sounds so magical and natural, and it's great hearing how you felt on it, and it's great hearing how the depictions and everything that happened. Yeah, I mean, I this pandemic has been definitely very hard for the industry, and especially as someone who likes to discuss the industry. I'm always posting on Instagram asking people questions about, like, how do you feel about this, how do you feel about that. I mean,
Yeah,
you and I even had a conversation the other day because the new Black Widow film is now going to be released on Disney Plus, and it's just like, how does it make you feel? Like, what are your thoughts on direct to video on demand? And people, had so many different things, and our conversation about that was, I think, one of the most fair ones. Like, these companies are looking for the best way to still deliver this wonderful content that they've made to you in a timely and wonderful manner. And and they, as much as they care about the theaters, this story that we've talked about also needs to be told. And
yeah,
if it was supposed to be in 2015, and now here we are 2021, like, we obviously don't want to push back. The story's there, it's
yeah.
made, like, we want it to
It's
get
also
out.
one of those things where once you've made it and you've invested all that money in actually making it,
Yeah.
especially like an action film like Black Widow, which is
Yeah.
what like probably $200 million.
Good God.
You don't want to sit on that till 2023 and hope to make money,
Right.
and that actress might not even be as relevant as she is today,
Fair.
so there's things like that. But like if this were 2018, 2019, I'd be like, if it's on VOD, it's probably not that great,
Right. Yeah.
um, because that means that it didn't test well. But no, I think the industry is definitely adapting. And like Kevin is a great example because Kevin, like he turned 40 on set and he just kept saying like, I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started.
Oh, dope.
And like he's filmed he released a documentary or two
Yeah.
documentaries and a comedy special from his basement. He
Yeah.
he's creating all these shows. He filmed a movie in Toronto. Like he's doing all these different things. So on the celebrity level, you see that, but even like on the micro level of like the non-celebrity me, like our industry adapted really quickly. So
Yeah.
within 2 weeks of Quebec shutting down last March, the video game industry and the advertisers went to the government for special permission to start working again.
Mm.
So within like a week and a half, video games were continued producing
Yeah.
doing voice work. They were doing motion capture. Radio ads were working. Like I was doing it. I have a studio in my closet. I've been doing
Yeah.
radio ads all year, and in-person commercials. And then like not long after that, they reopened it to in-person filming. And
Okay.
it was a slow progress, but like
Yeah.
by September, everything
People
was
were
like
working. Yeah.
we're filming again. And like there's specific and very strict requirements like imposed by the Quebec government made specifically for our industry.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been any major outbreaks yet. So that's allowed us to keep going even when Montreal is under curfew and and there's all these different restrictions, we're still going.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thing because what it's done for Montreal is that in the States, like especially like LA, where it's lockdown nonstop, it's
Yeah.
really unpredictable. And overseas in Europe, we're getting a lot of foreign productions that are planning to come to Montreal to shoot
Because we've done such a good job at, yeah.
because we're doing such a good. We also have like the best green screen technicians, things like that. But the Quebec Film Commissioner predicted that this is going to be the most profitable year for the TV and film industry since 2002. And
Wow.
2002 is when Montreal was Hollywood North. That's when we
Yeah.
were making more in Montreal than in New York and LA combined.
Wow.
So, like, I think they're estimating $400 million for the TV and film industry in Quebec this year compared
Wow.
to 192. So, and like I've been on a few sets this year. I felt very safe. Like,
Yeah.
you feel very safe. They're very careful. I did a shoot last weekend where I had to actually touch another character. So, like, what they would do is that you have a certain amount of time that you're able to be close to each other.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And you're in full PPE, you're in a mask, you have goggles on. There's people who are like they're designated for COVID. So in between takes, that person comes to me, they give me my sanitized mask, they give me the
Yeah.
goggles, they Purell me, and then they make us stand apart. And then when we're ready to shoot, we come close, somebody times it,
Whoa.
you give it to somebody, Purell, and then we do it, and then they're like, okay, you've been together too close for too long, move apart.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And some productions require testing, things like that. So it's like I've done a bunch of shoots and I'm just like, for the most part, like they're very, very careful because you don't want to be the production to shut down the industry.
Exactly. I feel like that is the most important message at the end of the day. And it's great that everyone's
Yeah. You don't want to be the reason that like we can't get the next huge action film that's coming to Montreal. And
Yeah.
there's a huge action film coming to Montreal later this year.
That's dope. I mean,
And like, they don't want to be the reason that they can't come. Then the city loses $200 million.
Yeah.
We shut down, and also it's very expensive. So it's like if you have an outbreak, a lot of these companies weren't able to get insurance for COVID.
Mm.
They have insurance for other things, but not for COVID. Or if they do, it's really expensive.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
Which is cutting into the budget overall. And yeah.
I mean, like even just the COVID protocols with like testing and stuff like that, they're already going over budget.
Yeah.
So it becomes really expensive, and that even for like a decent sized production company, one outbreak can shut down your company for good because it's that financially straining. So
Yeah.
we're very lucky.
Teneisha, this conversation has been one of the most enlightening and amazing conversations. And I feel like I say that with so many people, but I genuinely always feel I've learned so much when I have these conversations with people. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This was great. I learned about making movies. I learned about like motivation stuff. I learned about the like process of growth. It's how like dealing with experiences, being humble but being positive, and so many things were discussed in this 90 minutes. And I thank you so much because it was great. I enjoyed all of it. I hope
Thank
you enjoyed
you.
it.
I had so much fun. Thank you. I feel like there's so much that we haven't talked about that like
Little,
we need a part two.
oh,
But like,
don't
thank you
worry.
for
You're
having.
gonna get hit up for part two.
I'm ready. I'm
Yeah.
ready. This was so
Plus,
much fun. Thank
we're
you.
gonna be doing Dungeons and Dragons in some way in like 6 months from now because
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to work at this.
Live
I'm
stream
going
Dungeons and Dragons. We didn't talk about Future Man. Like
I
there's so
know,
much
I
that we didn't
know.
talk
Oh my
about.
god.
So like
Yeah.
definitely
Okay.
it's gonna be like look like I can talk forever. So this will just be like a
So
weekly
yeah,
just like Tanisha Brian combo. Like
I'm down. You know, I'm down. I'm down. 100%. Thank you so much again. Is there? Can you tell people your socials and stuff? I want people to be able to follow you, find you, connect with you, and get
yeah.
inspired by you.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at Teneisha C. That's where the bulk of it goes. If you're really interested in the weird stuff that happens in my brain, my Twitter is also at Teneisha C, and it's a data dump from my brain. So anything that I don't feel is appropriate to share with like people that I know, I just put on Twitter. Um, those are the big channels. I also have a website, TanishaCollins.com.
Awesome.
And now that you've seen my face, you'll be like, that's the girl from that thing, and you'll see me in a bunch of stuff.
Awesome. I look forward to all of it. Once again, people, Fatherhood is going to be on Netflix coming in
June 18th.
June 18th. And you can see Teneisha on so many other wonderful things. Go hit up her IMDb, check everything out, make a list, make a watch list. And then your next long weekend, just go through and watch and support local artists. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian.
Take care.
Bye.